Let your phone ring, 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 ring. 949-292-905. That's 949-292-905. Events, connection, and opportunity, all in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. Right for life. 949-292-905. That's 949-292-905. Hey! 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 Wanna know where David's gonna be? Get invites, updates, and community. When he's in your city, you won't miss a thing. Just text the number. Let your phone ring, 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 ring. 949-292-905. That's 949-292-905. Events, connection, and opportunity, all in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. Right for life. 949-292-905. That's 949-292-905.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words, say thank you.
Mr. Blaine, my friend, we just need you to unmute yourself.
More time with feeling. Aha. Hey, I'm a trained professional. Don't try this at home. Hey, welcome, folks. This is Napoleon Hill Institute, the weekly training that David and I co-host. David is on an airplane today, so you're going to get me for the lesson today, as well as the after lesson Q&A on Clubhouse. So today we're going to be looking at something that is actually kind of an interesting topic for me. As a matter of fact, it's so interesting that I ended up writing a book about it, and you can see that over my shoulder here. It's called Stop Drifting, Start Living. And it's based on work that Napoleon Hill did, and it showed up in a book that he wrote called Outwitting the Devil. And the whole idea behind the book, both of the books, has to do with how do we go about creating success in our lives. And on the back jacket of the Stop Drifting, Start Living book, I write this: most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they're adrift, reacting to life rather than creating life. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. Napoleon talked about this in great detail, both in Think and Grow Rich, but also in the book specifically Outwitting the Devil. And the idea here is that recognizing that most of us don't intentionally choose the directions of our lives. And I want to say that again, most of us don't intentionally choose the directions of our lives. We simply find ourselves over time reacting to whatever's showing up, whatever comes next. And drifting doesn't happen overnight. Drifting is something that begins to occur as we start unintentionally paying attention to things that are not in our best interest. It happens one unintentional actually decision at a time. One distraction, squirrel, and we get our energies focused someplace other than where we would like it to be focused. And as a consequence, we miss an opportunity. My good friend Brian Tracy, I co-wrote a book with Brian a number of years ago called what was it called? As a matter of fact, I'm going to have to go back here and look at it. Well, we'll pick that one up later. It was so long ago, I've forgotten it. But the idea here, and Brian talks about this, good habits are hard to develop, but they're easy to live with. Let's say that again. Good habits are hard to develop, but they're easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to develop and hard to live with. Habits that most of us have, the habits that you and I have, will determine everything that we achieve and everything that we fail to achieve in life. So what we're looking at here is how we can actually begin to institute processes, programs, ideas, attention, focus, that will develop the kinds of habits that will produce the kinds of results that we say that we want to have in our lives. Okay, so that's essentially what we're doing here. So when you think about your life, I want you to just kind of recast and replay the morning today. Most of us obviously woke up, but just what did you do then? In talking about habits, we respond to emails, we attend meetings, we scroll the social media platforms. If we're working in an office, we're working in our business, solving problems. End of the day, we close off feeling busy, but not necessarily fulfilled. And we certainly don't feel particularly closer to the life that we said we'd like to be living. I was working with a client today that had that exact issue coming up. Very busy, doing a lot of stuff. The boxes are getting checked off, but he was experiencing that he wasn't getting closer to something that he felt like it was important to him to have. And a large part of that has to do with, what I call the squirrel syndrome. Shiny object gets distracted, energy gets consumed, my time gets invested, actually not invested so much as spent in that direction. We don't for most of us, we don't intentionally choose our direction. We end up having the circumstances choose it for us. We live with intention. When we're living with intention, it means designing our lives instead of simply reacting to the circumstances in them. So that's what we're going to be working with in this training today. Just how do we go about doing that? And as always, we've got 6 lessons here that we're going to be looking at, and we're going to touch on a number of different components here as I actually begin bringing these lessons into the classroom, so to speak here. So first thing here has to do with for the sake of what? I mean, most people have difficulty in life because they are disconnected to what's meaningful. And a lot of my work revolves around a single statement: for the sake of what? Am I doing whatever it is that I'm doing? For the sake of what? And then, Earl Nightingale at one point in time said, when asked to define success, he said, it's simply the continual pursuit of a worthy ideal. That worthy ideal becomes the for the sake of what? Yeah, and so we're going to call this about, in this lesson, reclaiming your vision. And most of us, when we're little, we have ideas about what we would like to be when we grow up. And if you're like most people in the world, you'll hear things, the critical parent component comes into play here, going, well, that's a fanciful dream. That's something that's, nobody in our family's ever done that. There are all of these things that start to come into play. School reinforces that you can only move as far as your classroom has gotten. If you're in a church or a synagogue or in some sort of a religious order, you've got strictures around what you can and can't do, what's approved behavior, what's disapproved behavior. Governments, society, family structures, all of that stuff starts to inform not only who we think we are, but it informs what we think is possible. And as a consequence of that, we start capping that little blueprint inside that I call the soul of who I am, that blueprint that wants to be expressed. Most of us do not give any kind of sustenance to that blueprint that wants to be expressed in its full, as fully as it possibly can. And when we begin to lose connection, David White, the poet, one time said, when you lose your vision, the world can't find you. And that's essentially what's going on here. Vision gives every decision direction and every action purpose. That for the sake of what provides meaning. And if you don't direct the meaning-making process effectively, you end up defaulting to what popular culture says is meaningful, not what it is that your heart says is meaningful. And truly, we oftentimes will end up spending more time planning our next vacation or choosing what jacket or shirt or blouse or skirt or whatever it might be that we're going to wear to that next outing than we do actually planning the life we want to live. And that's where, when you start to notice that that's actually going on, that's a wake-up call if you're paying attention to it. That is a wake-up call. Drifting begins when our daily activities become disconnected from that long-term vision, that long-term, that meaningful for the sake of what. That's what we want to begin recapturing, is that vision, reclaiming that vision. There's a kernel that's still there. You may not know what it is right now, but at one point in time, that kernel, there was a light that kind of blinked on and off. You want to recapture that. You want to reclaim that and begin to give it the sustenance that it needs to actually become more visible. When it becomes more visible, not just from a sight perspective, but also from a feeling structure, you begin to feel it coming to life. There you begin to organize your decision-making processes. Okay? Clearly define the life that you want to produce. Clearly define it. What does it look like, feel like, smell like, taste like? What does it look like? Who's in it? Who's not in it? Those sorts of things come into play. Who do we want to be in that picture? Not just who are we today, but who do we want to be in that picture that allows us to have and do what it is that we're saying we would like to have and do and be. That's what we're looking at doing. So we want you have to work backwards. You define what that is and then work backwards from there. How you do that on a daily basis, and this is where habits start to come into play, going back to something that Brian Tracy had said. Yeah, good habits are hard to develop, but easy to live with. When you can begin to put this in place, one of the ways that you can do this from an action perspective, end of the day, review what happened. Review your daily vision. Review it, and then also preview it when you get up in the morning. Here's that for the sake of what? Here's the to-do list that I've got. Which ones are in alignment with that? Which ones will move me an incremental step? It doesn't have to be a giant step, an incremental step closer to what it is that I say I value, what it is that I say I want, what that what that worthy ideal that Earl Nightingale talks about actually represents. So that's what we're looking at doing. The second thing that we can do here is, and this is a very simple one, David works with this one all the time. Become a student of your calendar. Align our values with our calendar. Priorities aren't revealed by what we say, they're revealed by how we spend our time. Now, here's where this can get kind of interesting. I work with, in the work that I do with executives, I work with a notion called creative constraint. Creative constraint. And what we're working with creative constraint has to do with, in this case, values. Values guide behavior. And the way that you stop drift is you tune into what is the values that actually bring life to what it is that you're doing, bring life to your vision. What are those values? They can be things like integrity. They can be honesty. They can be family. But what we end up doing here is we use those values as a container, and behaviors that go outside of those values, this is where creative constraint comes in. Behaviors that go outside of those values, we don't do. Doesn't mean that we don't move. It means that we get creative about how that next step that we take. Creative constraint. The values become a constraint, but they also provide a basis for us, and there's pressure, there's tension that gets created here when we have to cut off a behavior that isn't going to serve us. There's now something that we have to invent. So this is part of how growth occurs. We become more aware of what's possible. So we start making choices that we've never made before. We start identifying different resources that we've never noticed before. That's a function of creative constraint. It's a function of aligning our values with our calendars. Where are we spending time? You begin to get a sense of alignment when your daily schedule begins to reflect those deepest values. That's what we're looking to create here. And your calendar is an incredibly valuable tool to actually begin that process and actually to continue that process. You know, when David talks about being a student of his calendar, periodically he'll just stop and look at, okay, what's creeping in here that is not in alignment with where I say I want to go and with the life that I say I want to be experiencing. Stop drifting, start living. Drifting is a function of unconsciousness. We can't afford to be unconscious. Our calendar gives us a very interesting mirror to bring us back in a conscious way to what's important. So that's what we're going to be looking at, and that's how we actually use our calendar when we're actually looking to move things forward. Lesson number 3, repurpose the ordinary. Purpose isn't reserved for major moments. We create meaning by changing the way we approach ordinary responsibilities. And this is a very, I think, important one to go to go into, because what we're looking at here has to do with the daily activities of living, not major milestones. Yeah, and I go back to what Brian was saying here, Brian Tracy. Good habits are hard to develop, but easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to develop, but hard to live with. 95% of our behavior, study after study after study, shows that this is true. 95% of our behavior is generated by things that are out of my conscious awareness. Only 5% of what I do from a behavioral perspective is generated by conscious thought. Okay? Subliminally, there's a lot going on underneath this iceberg that I call my mind. In that 95% are all the habits, all the patterns, all the things that I've habituated over the course of my life. When I become aware, the great value of awareness is that it illuminates new choices. Increase awareness, increase choices. So by becoming more aware, by looking at what do I continue to engage in, and then repurpose that. I don't have to necessarily toss it out. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bath here. But what I want to look at is what are the activities that I'm doing? And rather than stopping them completely, because nature abhors a vacuum, if you stop them completely, something else is going to drop in, which may or may not be a good thing. But I want to be able to look at and assess, is this working for me or not working for me? Which is different than saying, is this good or bad behavior? Is this right or wrong behavior? Those value judgments don't serve. Is this working or not working? That question set, is this working for me or not working for me, keeps me connected to that for the sake of what? The only way I can answer that question is to keep in mind for the sake of what? Is this moving me closer or away from? So I start looking at what are the little things that I do every day. And is there a way for me to realign them? So that I'm actually doing something that is in service of that for the sake of what? Very simple example. If you have a commute every day rather than just doom scrolling through your social media, an audiobook. Pick up an audiobook and just listen to it. An audiobook that is in alignment with educationally learning more about what it is that you say you'd like to have or do or be. Yeah, workout. I mean, I use this one all the time when I'm on my elliptical, looking at or listening to an audiobook rather than just kind of sitting there doing the work here. These household things, these daily commonplace things become actually elements that I can move with. Thomas Clear talks about in Atomic Habits, one way that you begin to develop new habits is to couple them with something that you're already doing. And you just change the context a bit. You change the way that you approach it a bit, the way that you think about it a bit. So that's one way that you begin to do this. And it has to do, and if we look at Buddhistic philosophy here, what we're really looking at is a mindful approach. So mindfulness comes into play here. It's not unconscious. It's intentionally and it's mindfully engaged. And that, again, presupposes that you're clear about for the sake of what? What is this ideal that I say is worthy of me as I move into my life? When we intentionally find what these things are, when we begin to identify with them, we stop feeling like life is happening to us. The experience of being buffeted, the experience of being out of control, if you find yourself frustrated, if you find yourself, low grade angry, as a mood state, anger, frustration, resentment, rage, those sorts of emotions, these are secondary emotions that are the consequence of feeling out of control. Now, just think about that for a moment. Anytime that you've ever felt frustrated about something, I'll guarantee you felt out of control in that moment. Every time you were upset with somebody, you felt out of control in that moment. If life didn't work the way you wanted it to, you felt out of control in that moment. When we begin to intentionally find how we can use what's in our lives to serve what we're trying to make happen, then we begin to reclaim more autonomy, we begin to reclaim more agency, and we begin to direct our lives rather than being at effect of the circumstances of our lives. Another way of saying that is we stop being a victim. Yeah, very candidly, we stop being a victim. Choose a routine. Here's a suggestion. Choose a routine tomorrow or today that you can intentionally repurpose and then leverage that over the course of this week. One thing, it can be as simple as brushing your teeth. How can you repurpose brushing your teeth so it becomes an activity that's in service of something that you say that you would like to have, do, or be? I use toothbrushing as an example. Health is important to me. And I know that balance is an indicator of longevity. So what I do when I'm brushing my teeth is I alternate standing on one foot, on one leg, just balance. I'm working with balance. It's a simple activity. I brush my teeth every, a couple of times a day. And that practice is in service of that worthy ideal, which has to do with my health and well-being. Okay? So simple things like this. What can this event teach me? Another way that we can look at that is when something untoward happens that you're not expecting, that you're not anticipating, that kind of rocks you, knocks you off balance, rather than going, oh, woe is me, stop for a moment and ask a question. What is the unexpected opportunity that this event presents to me right now? Now, this isn't a Pollyanna sort of a view on this. This is a genuine question. What's the unexpected opportunity that could be leveraged here that I might not be aware of if I just went on to a victim tirade here and said, this is horrible, it's happened to me again, look at that, isn't this awful? That's not working. Stop drifting, start living. Living means making conscious, deliberate, intentional choices that are in service of the life I say I want to have. So this is one way that we begin to look at how we can do this. Lesson number 4. I love this one. It has to do with taking imperfect action. Okay. People will start to drift because they wait for things to be perfect. They wait for things to be uncertain. They hesitate. I can't take that step because I don't know what's going to happen. I can't take that step because, and then fill in the blank. It's going to be imperfect. I mean, I just literally flew back from Japan earlier this week, and I know that the aircraft was off course about 90% of the time, at least 90% of the time. It was off course, either high or low or east or west or north or south or whatever it was, but it was off course about 90% of the time, and it kept course correcting. That's what the autopilot does. It keeps course correcting. Life is like that. That for the sake of what becomes the navigational focus. And just recognizing that you're off course doesn't mean that it's not succeeding. Partly the way that we define continual success in life, and this was a lot of the work that I do with my executive clients, sustainable success is defined as developing the capacity to continuously start over. Developing the capacity to continuously start over. That capacity question is what we're looking at generating here. And part of that has to do with taking imperfect action. Do what I can with what I have, where I am. Those sorts of things create momentum. Nothing happens until something moves. Albert Einstein said this. Nothing happens until something moves. You don't wait for confidence. Confidence comes as a consequence, as an after effect of taking action. So one meaningful action every day, and this kind of goes back to the previous lesson, one little step. It doesn't have to be perfect. All it has to do is being in the direction of. And that's where you begin to notice over time, as it aggregates, you not only begin to develop new habitual ways of thinking and engaging life, you begin to actually move closer to what it is that you say that you'd like to have. So what we're looking at here is essentially developing a practice, a habit of being consistent in your movement, being consistent in your addressing that for the sake of what that meaningful vision, rather than being momentarily focused and intense for a short period of time. Don't worry about a 5-day challenge. Okay. Take it easy. John Wooden, move quickly, but not with haste. Okay. Move quickly means that you know what's important. Moving with haste means that your hair is on fire and you're reacting. You want to be in a responsive mood here. Number 5, adjust without losing direction. We were just touching on this just a moment ago here as I was talking about, the plane being off course. Living intentionally doesn't mean that life goes according to plan. The best laid plans do not survive. Mike Tyson, the first punch in the face. Okay. Yeah. Life happens. Life happens. It means we're willing to adjust without abandoning our vision. That's why it is so crucial that you understand For the sake of what am I doing what I'm doing? For the sake of what am I placed on this planet? There will never be another you in any way, shape, or form in the history of the universe. You are unbelievably unique. Each one of us is. What's that kernel that wants to be expressed, that blueprint that wants to be exposed and nurtured? That's what we're looking at here. So career changes, financial setbacks, unexpected challenges don't require us to give up on that purpose. We have to identify what it is so that we can find ways to nurture it. This is where you begin to look for unexpected opportunities. Okay. What change is going to be required of me here? So I've got to learn something new. In order for me to get where I say I'd like to go that I've never been before, by definition, I'm going to be growing. And growing is uncomfortable. That's an important piece to really land. Growing is uncomfortable. It requires letting go of things that aren't serving me any longer. It requires learning some new things. And most adults do not like the experience of being a beginner. So you want to be paying attention to this. Successful people don't avoid obstacles. They adapt while staying committed to their destination. Say that one more time. Successful people don't avoid obstacles. The obstacle is you will not encounter an obstacle unless it's on the path to where you say you're going. That obstacle is part of the path, and it's asking you, literally, that obstacle is asking you to grow. It's asking you to consider things in a different way. It's asking you to look at what you're doing, how you're doing, where you're going from a different perspective. What do I need to learn? What do I need to hold on to or let go of in order to work with this obstacle effectively so that not only do I grow, but I get closer to where I'm going? The purpose of every goal is not to get something. This is where you're just checking the boxes off. That's not satisfying. That's not fulfilling. The purpose of high purpose goals, the purpose of a goal in the context of stop drifting, start living, the purpose of a goal is to grow. And if I'm not growing in my life on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, I'd better be different when I'm 5 years down the road than where I started 5 years ago. I'd better be different, not better. I want to be different. Different in the sense that that dream, that ideal, that for the sake of what, is calling me to be something that I'm not currently expressing. That's where that blueprint comes out. Evaluate what's working and what isn't each week. Adjust your strategy without compromising your values. Again, values become a creative constraint that keeps you on the path. And feedback, is a breakfast of champions. So you want to find ways to get feedback about what's working and what's not working. Final lesson, number 6, live with intention every day. Our lives are literally shaped less by major decisions and more by the small choices we make every day. The big decisions in life are few and far between. They really are. Going to buy a house, going to get married. Those sorts of decisions are few and far between. That's the little ones. This is where drift sets in. We don't pay attention to the little ones. Every conversation, every commitment that I make, every promise I make, every promise I don't keep, every habit either moves us closer to the life we say we want or further away from it. Stop drifting, start living. When we're looking at what we're doing from that lens, through those filters, we start paying attention to what is in play. And we start making choices that are intentional choices. The opposite of drifting isn't perfection, it's intention. Living intentionally means literally choosing thoughts that work for us, managing the energy that we have available to continue to move. Energy is action. We monitor our actions, our behaviors, and we find ways to respond rather than react. Now, we're not going to get it perfect. So just know that. But what you want to be able to do is come back. Again, sustainable success is about developing the capacity to continuously start over. When I'm knocked off base, get back up, continuously start over. What do I need to hold on to, let go of, or learn new that allows me to get back in harness and back, moving in the direction that I say that I want. So daily habits. Yes, start each morning, just identifying for the sake of what, just connecting to it. You don't have to redefine everything, but just imagine it. Just take a moment. It takes no more than 30 seconds. Get connected to what matters. And at the end of the day, just do an audit. How'd I do? It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of stuff that got in the way, but you want to continue the practice of intentionality, the practice of mindfulness. We measure by our success by how intentionally we lived, not just by what we accomplished. We've got success criteria at the end of the day. We got success criteria. I lived a fulfilling life. That's a success criteria, and I can measure that. But we've also got succeeding criteria that lead us down the pathway towards that ideal state, that worthy ideal. So no one accidentally builds a meaningful life. And I would say that again, no one accidentally builds a meaningful life. Purpose isn't found, it's created through intentional choices. This blueprint already exists in me. I don't have to go find it. I just have to allow it to emerge. I have to nurture it. And it starts with identifying for the sake of what? What's important to me? What's that worthy ideal? The people we most admire aren't necessarily the busiest or the most talented. They're the ones who consistently align their values, their actions, and they make adjustments as they grow. The key here is they keep moving. They keep moving. And when they talk to you, they're consistently talking about that dream. I have a dream. We move in that direction. Every day gives us a choice. We either drift, live life by default, and it's accidental, or we live our lives with intention. And when we stop drifting, we stop waiting for life to happen. We actually begin to create the life that we were meant to live. So I want to thank you for coming to the program today. I'm going to be going over to the Clubhouse site in just a moment here, but stop drifting, start living. You can pick up a copy of the book, Stop Drifting, Start Living. I think Gigi's going to put that in the Sharon here. Yeah, there's a PDF here. So go ahead and just check that out, and look forward to hearing how you're going. And I'll see you with David next week. Nick, it's all yours.
What's up, Mr. Blaine? Want to thank you for, of course, an incredible first half here of today's training. And I had sent you over the Clubhouse link as well. So I'm going to take a quick moment just to reset the room here properly, and then give you a moment to get all set on Clubhouse. So then we'll get rocking and rolling with today's Q&A. And as a reminder for everybody, we want to thank you all for joining us for today's edition of the Napoleon Hill Institute training with the double B. That is, of course, Blaine Bartlett, and you can reach him at blainebartlett.com. For anybody that is joining us and would like the guide and exercise from today's training, and of course the replay, which always comes along with it, all you're going to need to do is email either David or Blaine directly. David, of course, can be reached at david@dmeltzer.com. Once again, that is just david@dmeltzer.com. And of course, you can email Blaine directly. He is bbartlett@avatar-resources.com to get the guide, exercise, and replay from today's training. And of course, as we are here at halftime, want to remind everybody on where we are going to be on the car wash tour, as of course we are on tour to over 200 cities every single year, coming into those cities and adding on what we call a car wash, which is the addition of a community meetup, holding court, or even one of our VIP dinners for charity. Coming up here, David is actually going to be hosting a community meetup this afternoon in Honolulu, Hawaii at 3 p.m. local time there in Honolulu at the Hilton. Hold on, it is the Hilton. Give me 2 seconds. My goodness, why am I forgetting this? The Hilton Hawaiian Village right there on Waikiki Beach. So if you guys are located there in Hawaii, make sure to go say hello to David today at 3 p.m. local time. Then from there, we are going to be off to Newport Beach, California for the Act Like the Champion You Are Mastermind plus VIP dinner. Of course, adding on a car wash there in Newport Beach. Then we're going to be back in Los Angeles, California at the greatest stadium in the world, SoFi Stadium, for another edition of our Mastermind series plus car washes and one of our VIP dinners for charity. And then closing things out here in our 12-day sprint back in Atlanta, Georgia, for another Mastermind plus car wash experience with the incredible and illustrious Mr. Les Brown and many, many others joining us there. So if you guys would like the reminders on where we're going to be and over 200 invitations, but not obligations a year, all you need to do is text us at area code 949. Next three digits are 298. Last four digits are 2905 to get a reminder on where we're going to be and receive all of the over 200 invitations, but not obligations a year. Now, getting things started with our Q&A session, as the Double B is always so gracious with his time to stay on a little bit extra and understand what people are listening for and providing great clarity and wisdom through an extended Q&A. So we have about 23 minutes here with the Double B. And for the first question of the day, I'm going to lean on our friends here on the Breakfast with Champions, the greatest room and community on Clubhouse, to get us started. And we have one of your personal favorites, Mr. Blaine. We got Princess Ali, who is live, ready to rock and roll on Clubhouse. So Princess Ali, the mic is yours, my friend. Why don't you unmute yourself and get us started with the first question of the day?
Hi, Blaine. Welcome back from Japan.
Thank you, Ali. How are you?
Good. Always an incredible training. My question today is around the forsake of what, which is what gives everything else direction in our life. My question is, what is yours personally? And for someone who's rebuilding and rediscovering who they are and what they truly want, what helps them separate what's genuinely meaningful to them for everything that they've been compared to everything that they've been conditioned to believe matter?
Great question. My for the sake of what is over my right shoulder here, compassionate capitalism. Business is the most pervasive force on the planet. There's nothing that doesn't get touched by the activity of business. And I think business has a moral obligation to uplift the experience of being alive on this planet, not denigrate it, not compromise it, but to uplift it. So the words compassion and capitalism oftentimes seem oxymoronic. They don't seem to go together, kind of like oil and water. So my purpose in life, my passion, my for the sake of what, is to bring the ideas and the ideals that are associated with compassionate capitalism into the common lexicon, into how we actually operate on this planet. So the teaching I do, the work that I do, all of it serves in some way, shape, or form that notion of compassionate capitalism.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Blaine.
You bet, Ali.
Thank you so much, Ali, for getting us started on the right foot, of course. And now for our next friend of the day here on Clubhouse, I'm going to pass it over to Marco Antonio, who is always Mr. Curiosity and bringing great questions. So, Marco, my friend, happy Wednesday. It is great to see you here as always. What are you thinking this fine Wednesday?
Likewise, Nick. What's up, Blaine?
Hey, Marco Antonio. Good to hear your voice again.
Likewise, man. You know what? I'm gonna keep up with this theme of creative constraints. You know, how I'm understanding this is that if we do something that's not aligned with our values, then it causes us resistance, right? And we start to drift. But you know, sometimes we don't really realize we're drifting. You know, and we convince ourselves that we're making progress, but we're really just good at staying busy. So how do we know we're still pursuing our why rather than just, repeating habits that we've always had?
It's a great question. Again, I was working with a client today and he was commenting on his experience and he was saying, I feel like a spinning top. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I don't see and I don't experience that I'm moving any closer to what I say is important to me. And that can be a really seductive place to be. And I say seductive in the sense of, I feel like something's happening. I mean, I wake up in the morning. My to-do list is pretty full, and at the end of the day, I've got most of the stuff checked off on it. But what hasn't happened is I haven't moved much closer, if closer at all, to what I say is important, what it is that I say I value. And it doesn't have to be a major step forward, but I want to keep coming back to connecting everything that I do in some way, shape, or form to that for the sake of what? That meaningful, worthy ideal. I'm going to miss it more often than not, most likely. But if I can hit it, if we take a baseball analogy, if I'm hitting 300, and do it consistently, I'm in the Hall of Fame. So you kind of take that perspective, and this is where you want to be mindful that perfection isn't what we're after. We're actually looking at execution. We're looking at excellence. We're looking at contribution to that outcome over the course of my lifetime, or the course of the 15 years timeline that I may be working with, whatever it might be. This is where the daily audit at the end of the day comes into play, and it also is where the preview of the day comes into play. It's what's on the list going to get me closer to what I say I want. At the end of the day, do I experience that it actually got me closer to what I said I wanted? So I'm the only one that can make that assessment at the end of the day. And part of the key here, Marco Antonio, is, and this is an important piece to understand, I don't want to go into a conversation with myself about good, bad, right, wrong, because that's a polarizing downward energetic. I want to consider my preview and my post-mortem, if you will, at the end of the day, from the context of, did this work well or did this not work well? Did this work moderately well or not moderately well? Did it work or not work in getting me closer to what I said I wanted? That's a values-free assessment. It's just a real clean assessment about, here's the outcome I was intending to move towards. Did this contribute to that or not? Not good or bad, not right or wrong. It's just an assessment. Sets me up for the next day. And I end up over time doing less of what doesn't work and more of what does work.
Man, appreciate that perspective, Blaine. Sounds like progress is the most important thing, right? We're getting closer to where we want to get.
Yeah, consistency, not consistency, not intensity.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
You bet, buddy.
Thank you so much, Marco. And for our next friend here in the Breakfast with Champions, and the next question is, we just had a new friend, Andrew Darlow, that has joined us on stage. So Andrew, I'm going to pass the mic over to you. And Mike, who I see here on stage as well, you are officially on deck, my friend. But without further ado, Andrew, the mic is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Blaine. I've been enjoying the time here, also with David. So my question is, someone told me not long ago that if I were to show up in a room, usually it's going to be a Zoom room or something like that, or a Clubhouse room, once a week for a certain amount of time, it's going to be the most valuable time in my business. I wonder what you might say about that, and how many different ways can I, or maybe you have one or two ways that I can get started if I'm someone who, I do a few things, but let's say I am mostly someone who's a coach and wants to have other coaches in the room.
So showing up in the room is important, but more important is what room you're showing up into. There's going to be some rooms that are not going to serve you at all. So there's a notion that in leadership that I work with called ontological design. It's where I'm designing the environment in a way that it designs me in return. So there's a reciprocity that kind of comes into play here. I design it, it designs me. And when we're looking at stop drifting, start living, this really comes into play strongly. So when you're looking at it from the standpoint of going into rooms, you want to design very specifically the room profile. So what is it that you're looking to achieve by being in a room, and does that room offer that opportunity? And then the second question is, who is populating that room? Because I'm going to be associating with these folks, and are these people that I get to learn from? I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Yeah, ideally I'll be the dumbest person in the room, and I get to ask a lot of questions from that perspective. So those dynamics come into play, but to the point of being in the rooms, consistency is going to be part of what you're looking at there with this, Andrew, and that'll work.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and we appreciate you joining us not only today, but consistently. As you had mentioned, you love the Breakfast with Champions and David's training here. So we acknowledge, we appreciate, and really enjoy your engagement. Look forward to seeing you even more. Mike, you are next up, my friend, for the next question. I got Robin on deck, but without further ado, Mike, the mic is yours.
Beautiful. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Gotcha, Mike.
I love it. All right. Question, Blaine, is how do we identify where in our lives we are drifting instead of intentionally moving towards the person we want to become?
That's a great question. And it's a great question because oftentimes it's difficult to assess. And here's the reason it's difficult to assess. The fish don't know they're swimming in water. Would be the analogy that I would probably work with. Drifting is a consequence of societal imprinting. Society expects us to behave in certain ways, to have certain attributes associated with success in our possession. The same would be true with family structures. Our family expects certain things of us. Our government does, certainly. Religious affiliation. There's, all of these things have shoulds attached to them. And when I begin to notice that I'm being run more by the shoulds of my life than what my heart is saying is appropriate for me to be actually moving towards or useful to be moving towards, that's where I begin to get a sense that I'm actually drifting and not actually living the life that I say I want to have. Belief systems are learned. They are not handed to me on stone tablets. And because belief systems are learned, and that's essentially what we're talking about here. I believe I'm supposed to be this. I believe I should be that. I believe I should have to do this. These belief systems are constructed over time, and they can be deconstructed just as easily. And it takes time to deconstruct them. But again, I mentioned earlier that nature abhors a vacuum. I want to have something to put in place when I start deconstructing a belief system. And I want to be gentle with myself while I'm doing that. I also want to be gentle with the people around me as I'm doing that. The idea here of living as opposed to drifting presupposes that I'm clear about what matters to me, what really matters to me in my heart of hearts. So it's surrounded by values. I want to be able to actually examine the values. Rene Descartes, I actually take that back. I think it was Carl Jung, had said that at least annually, I need to set myself up to examine every belief that I hold to be true. Because what was true when I was 5 years old, from a belief perspective, is not necessarily true in my 20s. It's certainly not going to be true in my 30s and 40s. By the time I get to the point where I'm at in my life, a lot of the beliefs that I held early on in my life about what I could, should, or shouldn't do have fallen by the wayside. I want to continuously find ways to examine that. But I also want to be able to replace those belief systems, which generate behaviors. I want to be able to replace them with something that is in alignment with that for the sake of what? That valued ideal that I say I want to move towards. So noticing, actually, Mike, is the antidote to that. Just notice.
Amazing as always, Blaine. Thank you. I'll be a lot more aware. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, you bet.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blaine. And Robin had actually back channeled me that she needs a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to a new friend that just joined us on stage. And please forgive me as I do take and subscribe the tradition and the gift that keeps on giving in terms of being the name butcherer. And I get that from David, of course. But I will, I think it's Hamid or Hamid or Hamid, either or. I see you here on stage. Let me know the proper way to pronounce so I can make sure to do so for the future. And please carry us on with the next question of the day.
Nick, you can call me Hamid. Hamid is actually Hamid, but you can call me anything. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to ask Blaine a question. Blaine, first of all, thank you for the session, everything that you said, I needed to hear that. I'm a real estate agent here in Toronto, working with the #1 team in Toronto and GTA. And I do have a daily schedule. But what is bothering me and what makes me to drift almost every day is that I have a set schedule that I will make calls from 9 to 10, and then I have my team meeting 10 to 11, and then get to calls again from 11 to 12. What I cannot control is something comes up, the distractions within that specified time that I have. And that is ruining my whole day schedule. How do you go about that?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you make sure that you do not drift because something just happened and you're ruining, that is going to ruin your whole day, if I can put it that way?
Yeah. The question, okay, I'm going to pick up on the language that you're using with this. I mean, ruining the day assigns agency to the circumstance. It says, it is in control. It actually isn't in control. I can respond to it in a generative way. So so this is where creative constraint can come into play here. Rather than being upset by it, I can actually begin to look at, okay, how can I get something that I haven't done before? What is something I can do here to actually constrain or control or corral this eventuality, this circumstance, such that I can get myself quickly back to center, quickly back to what it is that I say I want to have happen, rather than, and this is what happens when people feel as if they have been hijacked. My calendar's been hijacked. We begin to muse about, God, and so we spend a lot of time regretting, ruminating, being resentful about that interruption, rather than going, okay, the interruption occurs, I've got 15 minutes to address this. And I'd be very declarative about that. I'm just making this up here, but if it's a request for time, somebody needs to do something with you. I've got 15 minutes here. If we can get it handled in 15 minutes, great. If not, we'll begin it and I'll pick this up with you later. Okay. So you actually take control of the process. Don't let the process take control of you.
Amazing. So stick to the plan, and if something that can be avoided at that time.
Yeah. And again, act quickly, but not with urgency or with haste. Yeah. Acting quickly means that you're clear about what the priorities are so that you can quickly come back to a centered position and continue moving. Acting in haste, my hair's on fire, I've got to address this, and ain't it awful?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I just finished reading that Napoleon Hill book, The Unwitting the Devil.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That is a book that everybody must read.
It really is a wonderful book. It truly is.
Thank you, Blaine.
You bet, Hamid. Good luck to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Hamid. And we look forward to seeing you even more often here in not only the Breakfast with Champions, but of course at our Napoleon Hill Institute trainings on Wednesdays and David's Free Friday trainings every single Friday, like he's been doing for over 28 years at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But again, thank you so much for joining us here today. Now for our next and likely final question of the day, I'm going to pass it over to Smilin' Robin as she is ready to rock and roll. Robin, it has been too long, my friend. It's great to see you here. Why don't you close us out with the final question?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate it. Hi, Blaine.
Hey, Robin. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. Hope you are as well.
I am. Thank you.
Good. So during your teaching today, it was a wonderful reminder for me about doing the end of the day analysis. I do catch myself reflecting on the previous day the next morning, and I think that can cause stalling and distraction. So I loved that reminder. So that being said, to intentionally put it into my wind down routine, what would be a set of 2 to 3 questions to ask myself to have that intentional cycle and analyze those notes from the day in order to prepare for the next day execution?
That's a great question. What you might consider asking is, the question around what have I not paid attention to that needs paying attention to? And that can begin to set in motion a couple of things here that'll, number one, it might prevent you from getting blindsided by something that just kind of comes out of the blue seemingly. But it also can begin to reveal a growing edge, so to speak. Yeah, here's an area that I haven't really developed as fully as I possibly could. That kind of comes into play as well. So a simple question like that can work wonders. What I would begin to steer away from are the traditional questions about how did I do today? Okay. Now you're still going to consider that. But I don't want to have that be a question that dominates my assessment of what's happened or where I'm going to, in the rest of the day. And I always will, I'm always going to come back into, is anything changed in my worthy ideal that I need to pay attention to?
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, especially because that's it's more about getting you aware of the present questions instead of going back to those traditional ones, which kind of keeps you in like, okay, what haven't you done? And then you could unintentionally focus on the negative too much.
Yep. Yeah. So, just along that line, you might ask, okay, what did I do that worked really well today? Or what did I do that worked really well this week?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You bet. I appreciate the question. Thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you so much, Robin, and we hope to get to see you in person sometime soon. And of course, want to have a very, very special thank you to Blaine Bartlett, the double B. You can reach him at blainebartlett.com for truly, I'm sure your back is hurting today, Blaine, because you carried the load in terms of rocking this incredible Napoleon Hill Institute training. Stop drifting, start living. And as a reminder to everybody, if you would like the guide and exercise, let alone the replay from today's training, just reach out to either Blaine or David directly. Blaine, of course, you can reach him at bbartlett@avatar-resources.com. And as you know, you can reach the beloved servant at his normal place, David at dmeltzer.com. Once again, that is just David at dmeltzer.com to get the guide, exercise, and replay from today's training. Now, Blaine, before I remind everybody on where we're going to be and make sure to invite them, but not obligate them to get in touch with us for an in-person experience, where can everybody get in touch with you? Any final words that you want to share before I close out today's training?
They can, you've been mentioning this, my email, bbartlett@avatar-resources.com. You can also find out more about some of the work I'm doing at we've got a leadership community that we work with, leader.blainebartlett.com/SOBE community. On the Chiron there, it says SOBE co. It's actually SOBE community. So you can check that out. The learning resources at blainebartlett.com. There's plenty of resources there. Most of them are available for free. So feel free to grab something, YouTube channel. We've got a lot of resources up there as well. So a lot of places to get in touch with me. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So that's a good home. And there we go.
I love it. And thank you again so much, Mr. Blaine, for an incredible training here today. And as a final curtain call, I want to remind everybody on where we are going to be and invite, but not obligate you to come and join us in person. Of course, David and I are on tour to over 200 cities every single year, adding on what we call a car wash in each and every one of those cities, which is the addition of a community meetup, holding court, or even one of our VIP dinners for charity. So if you are in Honolulu, Hawaii, please come and join David this afternoon as he is going to be at the Hilton the Hilton Waikiki Beach, the Grand Hilton there for a meetup today at 3 p.m. local time there in Honolulu, right in the lobby. So if you would like to join him, make sure to make your way over to Waikiki Beach this afternoon. Then from there, we are going to be back in Newport Beach, California for the Act Like the Champion You Are Mastermind and Intimate VIP dinner, adding on a car wash, of course, in Newport Beach. Then it'll be off to Los Angeles, California, at the greatest stadium in the world, SoFi Stadium, for another edition of our mastermind, plus car wash there in Los Angeles. And then closing out our 12-day sprint in Atlanta, Georgia, with the illustrious Les Brown and Dr. Stefano Sinacropi and many, many others for another mastermind plus VIP dinner plus car wash experience. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know it is always way too much to keep up with, and that's why we created our text community. So you get the reminders on where we're going to be. David and I need it more than anybody. So if you would like to be invited but not obligated, all you need to do is text us at area code 949. Next 3 digits are 298. Last 4 digits are 2905 to get the reminders on where we're going to be in over 200 invitations, but not obligations a year. Of course, we will be back here this Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, both on the multicast live on all platforms, as well as here in the Breakfast with Champions for another edition of David's Free Friday trainings. But in the meantime, thank you again to the Double B Blaine Bartlett for an incredible Napoleon Hill Institute training here today. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Wednesday ahead. And as David always says, continue to be more interested than interesting, and be kind. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Officially closing out the room here on Clubhouse. Gigi, close out the webinar.
Hey! It's gonna be get invites, updates, and community. When he's in your city, you won't miss a thing. Just text the number, let your phone ring, 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 ring. 949-298-2905. That's 949-298-2905. Connection and opportunity all in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. 949-298-2905. That's 949-298-2905.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words: say thank you.